Apple has never been known for having the most user-friendly options when it comes to customization, but that's changed quite a bit over the last few years. We saw many great features introduced this time last year with iOS 16, and now that iOS 17 is here, we saw those features get built out even more. And when you couple that with some third-party apps, we get something that looks and feels like it's a little bit more tailored just for us. Even if the organized setup that I'm about to show you isn't exactly how you would do it, stick around to the end and you might find a little inspiration to incorporate into your phone. Starting with my lock screen. Not too much to talk about here. I like to keep it fairly simple. With lock screen widgets being added last year, the initial temptation to fill every slot with any and all information was real. I find it more beneficial to only keep a widget in this slot if it's adding some type of benefit. So for me, that's the Reminders app, giving me glanceable information on tasks that I need to accomplish for that day. And probably an equally beneficial part of this is now that with iOS 17, you can actually mark these complete and clear them out straight from your lock screen. Directly after that is the weather widget. I mean, is a lock screen even complete if it doesn't have a weather widget? We all know the benefit that adds, so no need to talk about it any longer. And then for my last widget spot, I kind of went back and forth with. The last piece of useful information that I would want to have at my fingertips are my upcoming calendar events. But unfortunately, there's only 2 different widget options for the calendar, and neither of them provide a whole lot of value. So in its place, I've elected to go with a shortcut that when pressed will outline all of my calendar events for the current date with all of the details.
Hello, Caleb. The events scheduled on your calendar today are Dana White's Contender Series at 10 p.m. Have a great day.
When it comes to the date and time at the top, that's all personal preference, and to each their own. Again, mine is simple, just the date and a very thin clock without any of the crazy fonts. But the thing that's really going to make your lock screen stand out over all this stuff and really make it pop is a quality wallpaper. I always recommend something that's not too flashy or too busy, but has just the right amount of contrast to it. Whether it's something abstract similar to the wallpapers that Apple makes, or some kind of nature or scenery with vibrant colors. I always keep a few on standby and change them pretty frequently, depending on what kind of mood I'm in, or depending on which focus mode I have going at the time. Now when it comes to my home screen, I try to keep this overly organized, allowing me to quickly find what I need and keep my workflow and recreation as optimized as possible. And I accomplish that through the use of folders and smart stacks. Each one of my 8 folders represents different categories and houses different apps that fit with that particular classification. And just to share a few, my financial folder houses things like my banking and stock apps, Apple Wallet, and anything related to my job. My social folder is self-explanatory. Things like Instagram, X, and Reddit reside in this folder. I've got another folder specifically for all my bills, which is definitely my least favorite, but I have to have it. And then I have one for media that's composed of any of my streaming and sports apps, allowing me to easily tune in to my favorite shows and football games. Go Bengals! Then after those, I have one that's basically just for like keeping general tools that I use on a frequent basis. I have one for my shopping apps, one for all of the native Apple applications and system settings, and then lastly, I keep a folder for all the manufacturer apps for all the smart home devices that I use throughout the house. And although I mainly exclusively use the Apple Home app to control everything, it's nice to keep all these in one spot so I don't forget which ones I have when it's time for them to receive some sort of software update. And then any of the widgets you see on my home screen are in the form of smart stacks. They all give me something a little bit different, while at the same time, all accomplishing the same goal that I mentioned earlier of bringing value while maintaining that same clean look. So needless to say, every single one of these widgets perform a function and get used on a daily basis. And as I mentioned earlier, thanks to iOS 17, they're more interactive than ever, being able to take action or complete a task without ever leaving the home screen. This is super helpful and I'm constantly using it to control my favorite smart home devices, and it's actually quite responsive. The 2 smaller widgets that I incorporate are also smart stacks, but these are more minimalistic and are really just here to let me quickly play or pause a song or a podcast, give me some quick inspiration with a nice quote or a verse, or let me know what the battery levels are for my AirPods, watch, and battery pack. And of course, I reserve the dock for my most used apps: calling, texting, web browsing, and last but definitely not least, the camera app. You always have to stay ready in order to capitalize when a moment presents itself. The next thing that I want to mention can technically be displayed on any screen or any app in your phone and isn't exclusive to your home screen. Even though the majority of the time that's where I use it, it's not tied down to that particular screen. And that's the Action Button. This also is really cool, so I just wanted to take a moment and share it with you guys. So we all know that the iPhone 15 Pro got rid of the patented mute switch in place of an Action Button this year. And you can map it to do multiple different things, but with many different options, what if you want your Action Button to do all of them? Well, there was a Reddit user who created a shortcut called the All-in-One Action Button that when pressed will launch a menu bringing all the actions to you. I was absolutely ecstatic when I seen this thing, as it brings the best of all the worlds to your Action Button, and you don't have to choose which one or the other you'd rather have. And again, it's a really clean and organized looking menu. You can definitely tell the person that made it really put some thought behind it. If this is something that you might be interested in, I'll have a link in the description where you can download it and use it for yourself. And lastly is today's view menu, or as I like to call it, the sidebar menu. It's just one more place to keep useful information that you might not need all the time, but it's still nice to access it quickly or look at it from time to time when it's needed. I stash a couple of other widgets here, like one for shortcuts that allows me to check the watering for my Apple Home sprinklers, or give me a morning summary. This icon here is actually a widget that when pressed will start my Roborock vacuum. Now I used to go pretty crazy with Widgie, making those invisible widgets and stuff like that to show off your wallpaper. But in the spirit of keeping it simple, I moved away from that a bit, and mainly stick to official widgets these days. And after that, we have a quick look into ESPN that'll give me all the scores for all the teams that I follow and anything else that's relevant at the time in the sports world. Then to round out the sidebar menu, I have a widget for a third-party HomeKit app called HomeCam that allows me to peek into my HomeKit secure video cameras with a live feed, something that isn't possible natively. Honestly, I don't use this one as much as I thought I would, but every once in a while I will for times like checking in on my 3-year-old son when he's playing in the other room. So that's basically it. What do you guys think of my organized home screen setup? Is there anything that you would change or get rid of to improve it? If so, let me know down in the comments what that would be. Also, consider supporting the channel by checking out some of the affiliate links in the description that outline some of my favorite iPhone accessories, including this space gray aluminum alloy 3-in-1 charging station. This thing is absolutely flawless and it gets the job done. And for a short time, it's 47% off when you use the link below. I appreciate each and every one of you who stuck around to the end, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.